Hello, Dr. Vinita, and hello, everyone, Department of English QMC.
Okay, nice to have you,
Good
ma'am.
evening. Pleasure here, ma'am.
Hi, Mathangi, welcome.
Thank you, Vinita. Thank you so much. Long time seeing you
Yeah,
after a very long.
yeah.
Can we start, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. If everyone is
Yeah,
around,
yeah. We usually have 30 people. There are already 29.
okay. Shall we begin, ma'am? Like
Yes, we can.
somebody hosting it, or
Yes,
shall I start?
Gayatri is the
Yeah,
chairperson
yeah. Okay.
this evening.
Good evening. I am Gayatri, coordinator and compere for this evening session of In Tandem. Today's theme is Gay and Lesbian Studies. Research is creating new knowledge, says Neil Armstrong. Today we are going to explore the new trendy theme, Gay and Lesbian Studies, in our In Tandem. Our chairperson for this evening symposium is Ms.G.Mathangi, Assistant Professor of English, AM Jain College, Chennai. We welcome you, ma'am. We have a special guest speaker for this session, Mr. Alagu Jegan, queer person, editor, Paalmanam Tamil Queer e-magazine, and the founder of Aniyam Foundation. We are so privileged to have you both. Thank you for accepting our invite. I request Priya ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Queen Mary's College, to present her paper.
Gayatri, you first have to give the chairperson's remarks. Chairperson will hand over to the speakers. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, Matangi, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Preeti. Yes, good evening, Department of English, Queen Mary's College, and good evening, guest speaker, Alagu Jegan, and the enthusiastic paper presenters. I was inspired by a small section of, the magazine Paalmanam, which I went through, and I thought I would just try to give my ideas in English, inspired by one writer called Achani in Paalmanam. The writer talks about lesbian, love, and I try to translate the essence of it. I don't know how successful I am, but still, Alagu Jagan should agree with me after I have, presented it. It goes this way: we grow and breathe like trees amidst the crisis of identity and gender. We are unbounded by laws of nature. With festered wounds and indelible dens of insults heaped on us, we still define ourselves. Love is universal, and the person of attraction defies gender. Love, that is another substitute, a four-lettered substitute of life, can be said the axle around which globe spins. It can't be boxed within the margins of gender. Amidst indefatigable spirit of survival, we branch out, seeded by thoughts of bloom. Unfenced, we spread our tentacles far and wide beyond the horizons of human understanding. The internal gratification that springs in us in realizing love, gender becomes immaterial. We are rooted, branched, and we evolve into a species celebrating our inherent naturalness. To be different is to comprehend the uniqueness and experience the glory of our beautiful self. Sir, I don't know if I've done justice to the beautiful Tamil write-up. I was just inspired by it and I thought I would just have a try at it. So this was an extract from Paalmanam's Achani, written by Valli, if I'm right, translated by Valli. So with this few words about cure, about celebrating the difference, about inclusivity, I think I can hand over the session to the speakers. The first speaker is Priya, madam. Yes?
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, all. Can I start, ma'am?
Yeah, please, Priya.
Yes. I will like Girija to do the PPT. Girija, can you start the PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All of us are put in boxes by our family, by our religion, by our society, our moment in history, even our bodies. Some bodies have the courage to break free. When these words we hear, how conditioned these identities are is being known. Gender per se, it's a vital, is in a very progressive society of ours. It is considered in a binary situation. Male and female are the two genders which instantly come to our mind when we talk of gender. It is a socially constituted word and is not the same as sex. To quote Simone de Beauvoir, one is not born a woman, one is made so. In the similar way, it is the cultural and social setup which distinguishes the characteristics of either a man or a woman. So go to the next slide. What is queer? How does this term fit in? It is both theory and political action. Because of its fluidity, it is difficult to narrow down to a single definition. To sum it up, it's an exploration of oppressive power of dominant norms, particularly those relating to sexuality, and the emancipation they cause to those who cannot and do not wish to live according to those norms. In analyzing the power of the normal, the so called normal, queer theory contributes to a politics and ethics of difference. It challenges the dominant norms, especially those of sexuality. To go briefly, the word in its origin, in its nascent term, it's used as a slur. It's a kind of a derogative word to define to the differences in the sexual orientation. It is a so the word is a deliberate attempt. The queer word is a deliberate attempt as in disrupt some of the norms and the binaries that have been socially imposed. It functions as inclusive of including LGBTQ, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. I all these things refer to the opposition and to subvert the heteronormative patriarchal society that have oppressed in selecting the gender orientation. So it is often used as an umbrella term by and for persons who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, intersex, and transgender by and for individuals who use this term. What are we looking here is how this term is being used in per se. It is an academic discipline in a fluid and changeable field as much the word queer itself. As David Huffman, American theorist, gender studies, noted that this word was first coined as kind of in an informal way. To quote him, Teresa de Lourdes coined the phrase queer theory to serve as the title of a conference that she held in February 1990. She had heard this word queer being tossed about in a gay affirmative sense by activists and members of the art world in New York during the 1980s. In her opening remarks at the conference, Professor de Lourdes acknowledged that she wanted specifically to unsettle the complacency of lesbian and gay studies, which implied that the relationship of lesbian to gay male topics in this emerging field was equitable, perfectly balanced, and completely understood, as if everyone knew exactly how lesbian studies, gay male studies connected to each other. In order to go further, what this term has done is to challenge these accepted, the so-called heteronarrative. It challenges the gay assimilations, ideals, identity, the power imbalance between the gay and the lesbian, which doesn't even begin to address the difficulties of their confused identity. To quote Hoffman here again, the word itself, even to define queer, we now think is a very limited to potential, and it's a very fluid in possibilities. How does it progress? This theory, this theory needs an understanding. The understanding here talks about how it is revolving around the paradigm of thinking about sexuality that emerged simultaneously across the academic and activist context in the early 1990s. So this constitutes a broader and methodological one sec one second
Yes, dear.
profound naturalization of the dominant system of sexual classification. One second, ma'am. Sorry for the inconvenience. It speaks on the unintended but profound naturalization of the dominant system of sexual classification effected by the political success of the lesbian gay movements. So, what does it got to do with this academic study? Starting in the 1980s and 1990s, it began as a both political academic setting linked significantly to the AIDS activism. These activism, especially by Marlon Bailey, the 2015 winner of Alan Bray Memorial Book Prize in the book Butch Queens Upon the Pumps, Gender, Performance and Ballroom Culture of Detroit, explains how the gender as well as the class as well as the race, they all imported or particularly emphasized on the bond and the ties the community identifies with the queer, and changed in the way how the community performed the relationship and able to look past the stereotypical identities shared especially by the oppressed. The terms which they are usually slurred was faggots, sissies, dykes, freaks. We're all queer. Only the just the name is there. So we could solidly come around as identity. So what is we are looking here is how this term, this study begins with a sluric identification, how the queer, the term itself, it's in very negative way. Through historical movement and through progressive ideologies and participation by the activists, it has labeled and challenged by the proud and positive connotation implied by the group's use of the term as a self-label. The queer has connoted undesirably abnormality. To quote Galinsky's, to quote him, what is he? He referred this as a connoted pride in the group's unique characteristics. Where before it referred to despised distinctiveness, it now refers to celebrated distinctiveness. Reappropriation allows the label seemingly stable meaning to open the negotiation. So the community has through the ages have accepted these derogatory and gone through the process of reappropriation through activism, through challenges faced by a society and the individual identity markers. They have come about the ability to take power away from the dominant population by refusing to consider their slurs as derogatory. If queer is no longer a negative label, as Galinsky explained, it is more difficult and it is recognized as a superior quality and functioning of prejudices. So when you talk about prejudices, that is what they have understand. So to understand these queer studies, one has to attempt to provide a space for thinking differently about the relationship between presumed to pertain between sex, gender, sex, sexuality, between sexual and identities. Then the next slide. It's single. So therefore, in order to understand here, a single narration, when you talk about story, when a story doesn't have a single narration, when it becomes a single narrative, it doesn't progress. It becomes stagnant. It doesn't travel around. Same way, the narration, the experience shared by the LGBTQ community is diverse. A single linearly organized narrative cannot easily capture the energies of the various orders of political and scholarly work that mark the rise of queer studies. It remains important to narrate the emergence and continued cultural critic life of studies in the terms of range of different contexts. So when you look into this queer studies, it doesn't singularly concentrate on singular theories or singular school of thought. It involves feminism, it involves radical movements of color, lesbian, gay movements, AIDS activism, as mentioned earlier, and various sexual subcultural practices which are indigenous, which all localized. These also get noticed in the studies per se, especially the post-structuralist thought, particularly through the works of Michel Foucault, post-colonialism, diasporic studies, transgender and disability studies. These studies are underwent a drastic change using the famous theorist Michel Foucault's History of Sexuality in 1976, and Donna Haraway in 1944, Judith Butler. These are the prominent critics who talk about these theories. What does the theorists mean? The theorists use the terms such as normative standards. The normative here refers to the accepted, the standards used in family, used in society, used in culture. What did they do? The term normative is used to refer to both imposition of expert judgment about standards and the use of normal judgments. So when you talk about all these things, what you're looking here is, in a given culture, a nuclear reproductive unit is defined typically as family. When it comes to the term of family, family is where you have a male, you have a female, then this family is there through in various cultures, through marriage, they have this union, and the ultimate thing is reproduction. But the family changes in its nature and structure because the way family is viewed based on certain rules frame them as group. So what is these rules are referred as? Michel Foucault uses the term power knowledge. The knowledge here becomes the power. What does the knowledge here refers to? Knowledge refers to the conveying the discourse of a certain kind. What does this knowledge does? This knowledge regularizes the social body, which privileged and linked to the so-called family, and its goal is reproduction. What is we are aiming here is the accepted idea of a family as a nuclear family. When there's a male, there's a female. When there's a union, the reproduction is ultimate goal. But when this idea of a nuclear family doesn't in the normative standard is broken, when this binary opposition is broken, when the gender identity is challenged, what we are looking here is we are judging the socio-political system, the concept, through the history of sexuality, as Michel Foucault talks about. How does it work? It works through the performative theory, as Judith Butler has insisted. So what does it does? It perform this identity of how gender is commonly defined in an individual sense of being just a male and female. When I say I'm a male, I'm a female, what I'm talking about is the genderly socially assigned role as masculine and feminine. When there is an other identity which doesn't subscribe to these ideologies, we have the other identities. We are breaking away from this binary opposition. So what does this breaking away mean? The breaking away mean we are including the marginalized of the queer, creating the space for queer here in a strange way, different, which are not subscribing to the accepted norms of formula. So how this has been used? It varies from one culture to another culture. I am here going to talk about how in Indian space, how in especially in India, South Asian Indian space, how mythology also have presented these subcultures, identities, especially through Indian mythology. I'm going to place my argument how the ancient Sanskrit text, the third gender, has been described as a male with effeminate characteristic or behavior. The queer and the presence of alternate sexual entities are acceptable in the mainstream culture. Example, we have this character, we have this the existence of the third gender, the gender variant male, who is present times have been labeled as transgender women, has a root since ages, for which evidence are found in religious scriptures. They are referred as the Tirtya Prakriti. How do they perform? Through narration. Indian literature, especially the mythology, stories of like Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu in the Vaishnava tradition of the eastern part describe the admiration of the male god. In oral tradition, especially in the folk tales, there is a sex change, gender ambiguity which has been talked about. In epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, how we have this character of Bhagirathi, when we have this queer avatar of Mohini, Arjun, where takes place. The third gender and the androgynous identity in the mythology represented power and valor shown in the character of Shikandi. All these are analyzing how the Hindu mythology is very inclusive. The society was inclusive. How does it vary? Because how these are being challenged or brought back in discussion. So I'm sure what is happening here is we are looking into the indigenous movement and subculture through literature, how these are being discussed. What is here talks about here is taking global query. So what we are challenging here is not bringing in the westernization or acceptable form of Americanization of global identity of queer identity, but we are questioning this global queering. As Altman, Australian Humanities Review in 1996 argues that it is a renewed liberating claims of queer theory. He argues how it has to be localized, it has to be brought in, how indigenous local space identity also has to be given. So in Indian context, we have Ruth Vanita, we have Suniti Namjoshi, Leena Manimekhalai, Kutti Revati, Vikram Seth, Lakshmi Narayan, Devdutt Patan. These are all the writers, participants who have come out recently with their sexual orientation, and activists and writers. They all have been prominent figures in the movement of bringing in or challenging this so-called gender identity. So I'm taking this text of I Am Vidya, Transgender's Journey by Living Smile Vidya. Here it talks about how it challenges the social exclusion, how the protagonist, Saravanan Vidya, talks about how through his exclusion, because of the family pleasure, because of the fear of stigmatization, because of the shame which brings into the family and his family members, this character undergoes so many of tribulation. The book talks about as a transgender community, the most of us we know how often the word is objectified. It is a journey through which what this character brings about in underestimating his role of gender fluidity. So Vidya through this talk, through this narration, reverse the gender binary, brings out the challenges. To quote her, I'm just saying, he talks about how when Ethurunangai went missing. A search for party invariably landed in a railway station. I caught you. You really had a face of music. The inquiry that followed was quite harrowing experience. People who were loving all along could turn quite cruel of it Nani and saw my attempt to leave as an act of betrayal would spell a figure on me. So these are to these words, what we are looking is how Vidya through her experience, reverse the gender binary and brings in education as a tool for her to challenge these accepted the so-called stereotyped identities. These are the some of the text. Next slide. These are the some of the texts which we are looking here about the queer studies and how these can be used. So what does this queer studies talk about for research? It brings in relatable and shared experience of the community and often describes about exploring the attitude towards specific generation, talking about the important people, issues related to sexual orientation, discrimination faced by them, issues related to gender identity, and especially in workplace, school, and environments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya Madam. You have, yes, you have given a very broad outline about understanding your studies. And you have also brought in the theories. It's a broad study, I would say. Brought in the theories, theorists who propounded the theories, like starting with the spine of queer literature, Michel Foucault, and you have come till Kutti Revati. Yes. It's an overall view you have given, kind of a survey in understanding. As your topic rightly said, you didn't narrow down to any specificity, like you have just made a broad study of to understand it. And this would be the tenets on which any research can be done. And to add a point to it, to add a few points to it, like we have come a long way from, I hope Priya Madam also will agree, we have come a very long way from calling queer as a slur.
Yes, ma'am.
And calling those kind of labels, we have come away from labels. That is why it is LGBTQIA plus plus.
Plus.
We have come far away from that, and it's become an umbrella term.
Yes.
And you spoke about the third gender,
Yes, ma'am.
as a part of Indian mythology, Indian folklore, yes. And I would say it is not only with reference to the Hindu epics, Indian Hindu epics, even Indian hijras.
Yes.
They have been a very important. They have been a important part of the Mughals, right from the Mughals invasion, and even before that, hijras, as they were called, were supposed to be endowed with superhuman powers.
Yes.
And they were considered to be divine, and they were sanctified. In fact, the Mughal Harlem had a special place for hijras, protecting the wives of the Mughal emperors. This is just to add on.
Yes.
And also, more than third gender or trans woman or trans man, I think we've come a very long way in understanding the gender aspect. And it's like acceptance. We rightly say cure pride, and
Yes.
celebrating it, more than celebrating the difference. Earlier it was celebrating the difference. Now there's no difference at all. We feel we have come to a level where we feel there's no difference at all. We are he and him, or she and her, or they and them are us. It's all manifestations of human selves. That's all. Just as we have sun and the moon, different phases of the moon, it's different phases of human behavior or human orientation. So
Yes.
it's like, I feel personally, as a reader of queer studies, I feel the position and the labeling and the approach to entire queer research is no longer, as you rightly pointed out, no longer Americanized. We have come very far away from Americanization or Europeanization of queer labels. And we have our own identity with reference to South Asia also. South Asian identity, we have come to down south, and big voices for queer. And, we have come a very long way. Yes.
That's why the indigenous narrative subculture, which I concentrated more to bring in that point of view, ma'am.
Yes, yes. And you can, I would humbly suggest that you can narrow, if you're going to pursue research in this, you can narrow down further. And yes, we always need a research canvas. And
We
this
have
will
a
be the background.
paper, gender studies, where queer theory is included in our syllabus, ma'am, for the second year students.
Yeah.
And we have,
Usually, yeah, please, ma'am.
yes,
Yes.
and we have this text, I am Vidya, which the girls will be reading it as part of the syllabus.
Very
So
kind.
it is like a broad perspective of gender identities, where the girls are also will be get a broader perspective.
Okay, okay, nice.
Yes.
That's nice. Yes, gender and queer, even that's what I say, no? Labels have come so far.
So far, yes.
We don't like restrict gender to queer, or we don't say this queer is a part of gender. Queer has become a very broad term, I would say, include fashions, include style, include food, includes everything, even this, the whole system of education, like everything is inclusivity. It's like bringing everything together, and that is what Cure has done today in
Yes.
this pandemic world, or in this post-pandemic world, or whatever we call it.
Yes.
Yes. So I think the guest speaker also will be listening to this to get back to his views after the paper presentations, and looking forward to any other questions from anybody else, or any other suggestions to Priya Madam's paper on queer studies, understanding queer studies. Anybody, the floor is thrown open. Anybody can contribute ideas if willing to.
Ma'am, could we take all the
Yes.
questions finally, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Yeah, okay.
Because
Thank
I let the presenters present.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Priya Madam.
Yeah, welcome.
Next would be, may call upon Yuvadharshini Vengadesan from Queen Mary's College to present her paper.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, ma'am? Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, Yuvadharshini.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to present my screen, ma'am.
Oh, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening to one and all present here. I'm Yuvadharshini Vengadesan from MA English, Queen Mary's College for Women. I'm presenting a paper on asexualism. First of all, what it is, what the term referred to, what exactly comes to your mind after hearing the term asexual? Anyone can answer, volunteer, ma'am.
The gender.
Sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you, ma'am.
No, I'm not talking. Some other participant has
Oh,
switched on the mic and probably wants
okay.
to.
Yes.
May I, if I could?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Asexual is a person who has aversion to coitus.
General, okay, this is okay. Generic term, asexual.
Not involving sexual feelings, activity.
Sorry, could you more, please, louder?
Showing low interest in sexual activity.
Yes, exactly what it is. And the definition as follows: an asexual person does not experience sexual attraction. They are not drawn people sexually, do not desire to act upon attraction to others in a sexual way. Unlike celibacy, which is a choice to abstain from sexual activity, asexuality is an intrinsic part of who we are, just like other sexual orientations. It's not a sexual behavior though. Its origin. Asexuality first originated as a concept in the late 1890s. It is Sappho und Socrates, a German sexologist Magnus Hirschfeld, made a reference to people without any sexual desire, referring to them as anesthesia asexual. The modern understanding of asexuality was first consolidated in the 20th century, particularly with the inclusion in the 1940s sexual orientation rating scale known as the Kinsey scale. The Kinsey scale is also called as the heterosexual homosexual rating scale, is used in research to describe a person's sexual orientation based on one's experience or response at a given time. The scale typically ranges from 0, meaning exclusively heterosexual, to a 6, meaning exclusively homosexual. In both male and female volumes of the scale boasts an additional grade listed as X. While category X was created for those with no social contacts or reactions, psychologists in the 1970s further established the distinction between a lack of sexual behavior and that of sexual attraction. The term slowly gained prominence in the following decades and was used to expand received ideas about sexuality from appearing in a New York radical feminist manifesto to featuring in a much discussed personal essay, My Life as an Amoeba by Zoe Rayleigh, which provoked responses through the late 1990s and early 2000s. What is not asexuality? Which do not come under the term asexuality. It is abstinence, celibacy, chastity, and medical psychological disorder. Many people may think asexuality is maybe a medical disorder. They may be mentally ill, so they become asexual. That's not it is. With understanding the asexuality umbrella, as with any asexual orientation, the label asexual is generalization that does not explain or represent everyone who identifies that way. All humans are unique and individual, and sexual orientation exists on a spectrum of needs, desires, interests, and attractions. Differentiate asexuality from abstinence and celibacy. Abstinence is the deliberate choice of refrain from sexual activity, while celibacy is the deliberate choice of refrain from sexual activity and marriage. These choices may be made for religious, philosophical, moral, or other reasons. Asexuality is a lack of sexual attraction, but not necessarily a lack of sexual appetite. This means asexual people can be abstinent or celibate, sexually active through um, sexually active with partners also. A1. Asexually, uh, for asexual community in 2001, A1, sorry ma'am, Asexual Visibility and Education Network was founded in 2001 by David J. The asexual flag came out after A1 held a contest on its forum boards to create a pride flag for those who identify as asexual. The flag, um the modern and sorry ma'am. The flag consists of 4 horizontal stripes: black, gray, white, and purple from the top to bottom. The black stripe represents asexuality, the gray stripe representing the gray area between sexual and asexual, and the white stripe sexuality, and the purple stripe represents the community. The main awareness days, events, and symbols. Asexual Awareness Week was founded by Sarah Beth Brooks in 2010 and takes place 25 to 31 October. The asexual flag consists of 4 colors, which is repeated again, I'm sorry. In 2002, New York passed the Sexual Orientation Non-Discrimination Act, which was the first and currently only piece of legislation that mentions asexuality. Asexuality, a spectrum. Asexuality includes a spectrum of many asexual identities under its umbrella. Many identify with two orientations. One is a romantic and a sexual one. According to the A1, an asexual's romantic orientation determines which genders, if any, they are inclined to form romantic relationship with. There are also individuals in the asexual community who identified the gray area between asexuality and sexuality. That is, yes. Think of asexuality as an umbrella term that describes people who identify asexual, gray, asexual, and demisexual. Gray asexual means that a person experiences sexual attraction, but either not very often or only a minimal extent. This is also called as gray A or gray A's. Demisexual. Demisexual describes a person who only feels sexual attraction to people with whom a close emotional bond has been formed. This is colloquially called demi. These gray asexual and demisexual comes under sexual spectrum. Romantic orientation. Romantic orientation. Uh, uh, the types of romantic orientations are heteroromantic, homoromantic, biromantic, panromantic, aromantic. Heteroromantic, that romantically attracted to desires romantic relationship with opposite gender. Homoromantic, the one who desires homoromantic relationship with the same gender. Biromantic, romantically attracted or desires to romantic relationship with multiple genders. Panromantic, romantically attracted to desires romantic relationship without gender being a factor. Aromantic, not romantically attracted to or desiring of romantic relationship at all. Research on asexualism. Research says the main causes of asexuality is hormonal imbalance, psychological disorder, autistic spectrum disorder, or sexual the one who sexually abused, religious or negative attitude towards sex. That is hormonal imbalance may include the hypothyroidism, and hyperhypoclatinemia, and also
Excuse
depression.
me, can I stop the breaker?
Yes, sir.
The dresses is totally different. You can skip the slide. It may be offend asexual people. You can skip.
Okay, sir. Carrie Pilby as an asexual character. I have chosen Carrie Pilby to as an example for asexual character. Carrie Pilby is a 2016 American comedy drama film directed by Susan Johnson and written by Cara Holden and Declan Craig, based on the best-selling novel of the same name by Karen Lisner. Carrie Pilby's a short summary. Figuring out a post college life in New York City, being a genius has never been this hard. Carrie Pilby doesn't fit in. A year out of college, this 19-year-old genius believes everyone she meets is immoral, sex obsessed, and hypocritical. And the only person she sees on a regular basis is her therapist. When he comes up with a 5-point plan to help her discover the positive aspects of social interaction, Carrie, who would rather stay in home bed, is forced to view the world in a new light. Or as another blurb ends, so how far she should go to fit in with others her age. And Carrie is the main character, is white, female, class gender, heteroromantic, and and asexual. This is an interesting portrayal of an asexual character where Carrie is explicitly asexual, but often downplays her claiming of an asexual identity with words like practically asexual and feel asexual a lot of the time. It reads as if the author envisioned Carrie as a genius, disconnected from everyone, and then at the last minute landed on the idea of adding asexuality to further her isolation. Carrie has had a sexual relationship in the past, and during the book marks out with the guy she meets. It's unclear how much she is actually attracted to the guy. In one sentence, she calls its face mashing, while a page later she wants to stay and thinks this might really be okay. From the lack of attention she gives it, I assume she expects to have sex in future relationship as well.
Is there any technical issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Yuvadharshini? Ms. Yuvadharshini? Are you there?
Sorry, ma'am, my internet suddenly went off.
Okay, okay, I understood. Yes. Continue, please.
Yes, ma'am. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Carrie spends no time thinking about asexuality at all, which is a strange in a movie that it is entirely filled with Carrie thinking and overthinking everything. It is mentioned on a ground total. It is considered thoughtfully, if not very positively, that Carrie observes that sex is the main motivator of people's activities, the pith of their jokes, and the driving force behind their art. And if you don't have the same level of drive, you almost question whether you should exist in the world at all. Why asexuality it is. The society, constraints of society, conformity, and the urbanization. Urbanization is the foremost reason that allows the creation of subcultures, minority communities. It made the social norms weaker and promotes the engage of the ideas. People can vanish in the ub- urban environment. Critical to maintain the LGBT community and for later social movement, urbanization helps a lot. Advent of science. Power of the state and the market becomes the greater than that of the church. This paved the way for enlightenment, freedom from arbitrary and authority. Movement toward democracy, freedom of the press, freedom of the speech paved the way uh, for the
Um, I suppose a paper presenter is logged out of the meeting due to technical issues. Oh, shall we go to the next speaker or Ms. Yuvadharshini, are you here? Dr. Preeti, can we move on with to the
Priya, could you make a phone call to her?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
let's see how
Yes.
she plays, and
Yes.
then
Ma'am,
we'll take the call.
I think she's.
Yeah, yeah, she's back. She's back. Carry on, Yuvadharshini.
ma'am, I've logged in with my phone, ma'am. Just a minute,
Okay,
ma'am. I'm
okay,
about to
okay. I
end
think
my
you're near. Yeah, yeah. Okay, carry on. Yuvadharshini?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please. Because we will
Ma'am,
have
I'm
to take,
presenting my screen, ma'am.
yeah, because we'll have to take care of the time also. The department might be specific
Sorry, ma'am.
about that. No problem, no problem.
Sorry for the delay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In conclusion, on accounts by self-identified male asexuals with a particular focus on the pressures men experience towards having sex in dominant Western discourse and media. In marriage, they have to prove their sexuality that they are actively sexual because of the social and cultural norm expects them to take a part in the reproduction and prove their masculinity. In failing to do so, the process of reproduction gets hindered, the marriage fails. But in the asexual relationship case, they won't find the need to have a desire. Even if they wanted to have a baby in future, most of the asexual go for adoptions. For example, testimonials of asexual couples in the A1 websites. These are the postmodern scenario in the Western or non-Western countries or pressures to perform the reproduction activity where they have to prove their masculinity. In an asexual community, the physical harassments and rapes are avoided. Thus, the idea of asexualism is strong. References for asexual websites have taken. And at last, asexuality is like any other identity at its core. It's just a word that people use to help figure themselves out. With this, I conclude my presentation, ma'am.
Um, Thank you, Yuvadharshini. As
Thank you,
suggested by,
ma'am. I'm so
yeah,
sorry, ma'am.
no problem, it happens. As suggested by Dr. Preeti, maybe we can reserve the comments at the end so that the next presenter would carry on. Yes, the next presenter would be Kavya Bharathi from Adarsh College for Women. Do we have her? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Happy to say that
Am I?
Kavya Bharati was our student
Okay.
for BA,
Okay.
and welcome, Kavya.
Nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kavya, welcome, Preeti ma'am.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm also happy to share that I'm a student, UG student of Adarsh.
oh,
Kavya, you can proceed.
Yes, ma'am. I'm presenting the screen. Good evening, everyone. Is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible and your screen is visible. Please carry on.
Yes. So, good evening, everybody. So, I'll be doing a presentation on gay and lesbian studies. So, first, we will look into the history of gay and lesbian studies. So, if we take from when it started, we can trace the origins in every documented ancient civilization. So, it is not something new to human civilization, because wherever the first civilizations were, say it in Egypt, say it in Greece, say it in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, we had this homosexual relationships. And when we see what was the reaction of the society towards this was homosexual relationships were accepted or persecuted. So there were only two reactions to homosexual relationships. And also we can see it is also being documented in Bible because we see homosexuality is a sin. So that we can understand from that in Israel it was there. It was there. It was obviously there. So because it was there, it was considered to be a sin. And also similarly we see it in Greek civilization, Greek mythology. So if we trace the history, it was always there. And the term homosexual was coined in 19th century in 1869 by a Hungarian doctor, Keroli Maria Benkat. So she was someone who termed homosexual relationships to be homosexual, and also the term homosexual was not first accepted because it was a wider area of a relationship, just not just having sexual connotations in the middle. So let us see where the terms we are using today, gay and lesbian, come from. So gay emerged as an underground term in the early 19th century, and then it came into popular use in the 1960s. So as literature students, we see the word gay in medieval period literature and any 14th and 15th century literature. We see the term gay being there. So this actually this plainly meant happy. So gay is just happy in Old English. So this became a term to represent homosexuality was in early 19th century, and it came to popular usage in 1960s. So then the term lesbian. Lesbian comes from the Greek island of Lesbos. It is associated with the poet Sappho, whose sovereign literary lyrical describes erotic love and attraction between women. So what more than a reference from literature could be there for terming the term? So then we can see the traces of homosexual relationships in literature. Uh, my research or my take on this topic would be mostly on English literature, so that we can see that this was not something very abnormal. It was very normal, and it was documented in history, in literature, and in any documentation of the previous days. So first we'll see Edward II by Christopher Marlowe. So this story revolves around the relationship between Edward II and P.F. Gaveston. If at all there was this no homosexual relationship between P.F. Gaveston and Edward II, there would have been no problem would have come for the crowd of Edward II. But it happened so because it's such a society in English. It was written and published in 1594. So in such a time period, it was the 16th century we call, and then in that particular century or that period of time, homosexuality was not accepted. So this was a possible treason or adultery or something frowned upon. So then we have Achilles from Homer's Iliad. So we many of us would have saw the movie Troy, which was released in 2004. So in that movie, we have a character called Briseis, which is actually represent to be the love interest of Achilles. But it is not so in the original version of Homer's Iliad. So the original love interest of Achilles is Patroclus, who is the cousin of Achilles. So this was also again written in 8th century. So if you go back from 8th century in literature, we have representation of homosexuality, and it is not something new or it is not something that started in 19th century. So
Kavya, excuse
this
me.
story evolved.
Your screen, Kavya,
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me. Your screen
Yes,
is
ma'am.
not moving. Are you moving your screen? It's not moving. It's just
Yes,
in the
ma'am. I'm
first.
moving it.
It's just stuck
Oh,
in the first slide. History of Gay and Lesbian Studies.
okay. Well, I will just see. I'm moving.
Yeah, you've gone to the second slide now. Yeah,
Yeah.
traces in
Can you see the
literature.
pages
Yes,
in literature,
yes,
ma'am?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about Achilles in Homer's Iliad. So this this character, this relationship between the character is the love between cousin Patroclus. Okay, for Achilles' love interest is his own cousin Patroclus, and this is also a homosexual relationship. And the relationship is just represented so strongly that he doesn't go to Achilles doesn't go to war when he was with Patroclus, but only after his death he returns to the war. So then we have Nick Carraway from the Gatsby. This novel by Scott of Fitzgerald was released in 1925. So 1925 was the time period where homosexuality relationships were strongly opposed, and it was not even considered to be something to be in the human society. It was strongly opposed. But in that time period, and to be writing something and documenting the homosexuality relationship and not breaking the chain of documenting homosexual relationship in literature is really a brave move by the author. So here we have that Nick Carraway in the Great Gatsby is also has a homosexual relationship. And then we move on to Clarissa from Mrs. Dalloway. And again, this was also a novel released in the same year, 1925. And again, it is something a step ahead of Scott F. because Virginia Woolf being a female writer, and she too just represents something so strong as Clarissa. Clarissa to be having a homosexual relationship with Sally Seton, and that too, Sally Seton is a childhood friend of Clarissa in the novel. So this this makes a homosexual relationship so pure. So we see so many novels, so many movies now taken that this girl is born for her, this boy is born for her, and they are together from childhood, and that kind of plot line comes in Mrs. Dalloway, the Virginia Woolf, where that there can be homosexual relationships in the child also because it is as pure and we can just take the sexual connotation from it. And then we have Lihaf. Lihaf is a short story by Ismat Shafdai, and here we see Nawab Sahib is married to Begum, and Nawab Sahib is not interested in women, but he is very much interested in men, and he always spends his time with young boys. So here we can see a more a step ahead because whatever we were seeing before were from England and Greece and Roman literature, but now we are just seeing about uh, Islamic king and Begum and Nawab. We have that. So homosexuality can be seen across religion. So it is not something very different. It is as human. It is as human as love between anyone else. So here also we see just because Nawab is interested in men, and also Begum is left alone. So this gives her a situation to explore her sexuality in her own way, and she discovers herself to be a lesbian. So this is a very beautiful story on representing how some marriages fail because of homosexuality, and how coming out is very important. And if they don't come out, there will be many failed marriages. And then we have Joan Gilgan from the Belgia by Sylvia Plath. And again, this is Leon Gilligan is the protagonist love, Esther Greenwood. The protagonist is Esther Greenwood, and this was released in 1963. And this was the time period where we could see some kind of recognition for homosexual relationships. So here we see this particular the character John Gillian and Esther Greenwood. They meet in a mental asylum. So that and also only they both they are the only good thing that happened to each other in the asylum. So love is love in whatever form. So then we move on to queer theory. So just like we have many literary theory and literary criticisms so far in respect to literature, we have a very new theory, a very contemporary theory called queer theory. So queer theory is nothing but understanding different kinds of sexual desire and the view of it in different cultures. So one can't understand relations between men and women unless you understand the relationship between people of the same gender. So including the possibility of sexual relationship between them. So these theory actually says that uh, if at all in a so-called normal relationship where a man and a woman come together, there is two different kind of people, two different kind of gender involved, and they come together, and there comes a there comes love, there comes sexual relationship, and so on. So it is and in the when we are speaking itself, it is something very complicated, right? So men, women, and then they coming together. So it is complicated. So even if we have to understand the male and female relationship, first we should understand the same gender relationship. So only after that we can go to it to understand it better. And queer theory is a prism through which scholars examine literary texts, and queer theorists comment traditional definitions of homosexual and heterosexual. There is no strict demarcation between male and female, this is what they argue. So, so the people who just said the theories in the previous slides were Steve Sedgwick, the Newman Abbey Vice Professor of English at Duke University, and she is a very interesting person. She's not lesbian. She's not a lesbian, and she doesn't belong to the LGBTQ community. But she advocates for gay rights. She advocates for LGBTQ, and that is a criticism on her. Like, how can a straight woman advocate for LGBTQ rights? And she doesn't even. She argues that I should not be called a straight because I'm a human, and being homosexual is also human. So it's a human advocating for a human feeling or human cause. And we have Judith Butler, again a professor at the University of California. And then we have Maurice Dickinson, and he is also a professor at Queen's College of the City University. So let us see where comes the problem. So homosexuality is never a problem. Homosexuality has always been there, as old as love and as old as time. So if the love between a man and woman is considered to be normal, and homosexual relationship should also be considered normal. So here where comes the problem? I have six areas where we have the problem regarding homosexual relationships. So first, the patriarchy. Patriarchy is like a curse to humankind because it just helps one gender higher over another. So we always want the male gender or the male section of the society to be higher in power, higher in whatsoever a human can achieve. So that kind of high rank can be given only by having someone who's always obeying obeying the male society, because it is obviously the female society. So this kind of atmosphere is given by the institution called marriage. So marriage gives complete right and whatever authority of a woman to a man. So this was basically marriage, but now we have just come a few steps forward, but still majority in Indian society we see the girl moving into the guy into the man's home after marriage. So they're still there. So this kind of institution where the male is held high is broken by homosexual relationships. So that can be a family, right? That can be a family where a child has two mothers, a child having two fathers. So it can obviously be there. But this eliminates the patriarchy of high held patriarchy of the previous days. And then we have a problem called equality in our society. So this equality is between the genders, whatsoever the gender. The gender can be male, female, asexual, pansexual, transgender, whatever the gender orientation can be or the gender can be. There should be equality. So first, the human civilization was a matriarchy, where women had the lead, and then it turned to patriarchy, and then the patriarchy is just have dominated the world history for so many years, and then now just in the previous century we just fought for women rights. We see first wave feminism, second wave feminism, and post feminism have occurred, and only now we are just moving towards having equal rights to women. So from there we need to jump to another phase where our homosexual relationships are given equality, are treated equal just like other relationships. So equality is also a problem to homosexual relationships. And then colonization. Just like I cited in the previous slide, where in Bible it was written, it was quoted that homosexuality is a sin, and and we saw Edward II being thrown away from his throne as to be a king because he had a homosexual relationship with Priya R. So this kind of mindset was there in the English people, and when they colonized most of the parts of the world, this ideology was also passed on. So it was considered to be the homosexual issues were looked down because it was ruled because most of the countries, the Commonwealth countries, were ruled by British people, and what the British people held as ideologies, as normal, and as abnormal was again conducted to the colonized people. And then the same continued in colonized countries also, because after the departure of British people from the colonies, again we are just left the colonial ideologies, just like how we wear suits to conferences, how we wear jeans to jeans to colleges, and it is just there. It is not removed, and so as the ideology. And then gender roles. So if we have a family of two mothers or two fathers, but we have gender roles for mother and father. So we think that in every culture we have different gender roles for people, for the male and female dominantly. So the female should do the household work, should take care of the kids, and should manage the house, and the male should go out, earn for the family, and that's it. So this were the gender roles. So if at all there is two mothers and two fathers or two fathers, so who will take care of the household work in a family of two fathers? Who will go and earn in the family of two mothers? This gender roles just makes homosexuals seem impossible in many societies, but it is not so. Just again, the problem where equality is. So if we achieve equality among a society, this gender roles won't be a problem, and then we can very well create a safe and very normal environment for homosexuality. Then and then reproduction is also a problem, but we have many children not being taken care of, thrown away by the parents, and we have hundreds and thousands of children in orphanages, and adoption is always a option for a homosexual couples. And if at all uh, if someone chooses not to have a child, it is very much okay. It's very much normal, even if it is by a couple of male and female, or a female and female, or a male and male do not have a child. It's very normal, and it should be accepted. And then let's go to where we will see homosexual relationships in future. So if the future seems more good towards homosexuality, because we see more acceptance here. Even the Indian law has accepted, and we see so much shift in mentality in the people. Also, if we achieve equality, just like I said, and the problems slide in some side previously, if we attain equality, just what we are attaining now, women and male are coming close to be equal. So if that comes, and again, in future, if we achieve equality, homosexual relationships will be good. And then making it a wider picture. So the very core 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 point of homosexuality being a problem to the society is it is not seen as a wider picture. It is always seen as something to be related with sex something related to be with just attraction and not seeing it as a wider picture. It can be a family. Homosexual relationship can lead to a happy family. This kind of a wider picture should be there in the minds of people, and I hope it comes in future to the people. And then I have a very interesting Netflix series because this series just opened my eyes towards sexual orientation. Because as teenage students, we don't even know what sex education is and something like this will only gets us close to sex in the format of education. So this series is absolutely like an eye opener. It is not vulgar. It is not so much of adult content. What they say, this series is very norm. It is normalizing homosexuality in English society. So let me say the plot of this series. So this series is there is a school in rural England, and there we see each child having a different orientation, sexual orientation. So here we have a head boy of the school being raised by two mothers. His family is so he has two mothers and he is the head boy. And we have the principal's son to be bisexual, and we have another the character the friend the protagonist friend being gay, and we have lesbian couples. We have asexual people in the school. So this representation of sexual orientation in the school is a brilliant idea, and for the generation we hear for my generation the we for us it is really eye-opening series. So if at all we need to just go and learn about more about sexual orientation, but not in that not in the stereotyped sexual thing we have. If we can just go to this series and we can know more about how it is for the people. So yeah, that's it about my presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kavya. Done well. I now hand over the responses to paper presentation and the opinions to our guest speaker, after which I can conclude. Now I may I invite our guest speaker, Alagu Jegan, to take over the forum. Welcome, sir.
தேங்க்யூ. ஸோ நான் எல்லாருமே தமிழ்ல இருக்காங்க, நான் தமிழ்லயே பேசுறதுக்கு முயற்சி பண்றேன். ஏன்னா இது ரெக்கார்டட் அப்படிங்கிறதுனால நிறைய பேர் இதை கேட்கலாம். ஸோ ரொம்ப ரொம்ப அழகான ஒரு நிகழ்வா அதை நான் பார்க்கிறேன். எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு. என்ன சொல்றது, வரலாற்றுல பெரிய இடம் பிடித்த கல்லூரி அப்படின்னா அது வந்து குயின் மேரிஸ் கல்லூரி. அந்த கல்லூரியில இருந்து எனக்கு ஒரு வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சது. அதுவும் இல்லாம எல்ஜிபிடிக்கு மக்களை பத்தி பேசக்கூடிய வாய்ப்பு, பேசக்கூடிய மாணவர்கள் இல்ல ஆசிரியர்கள் பேசுறத கேட்கறதுக்கு இல்ல அவங்க சமர்ப்பிச்ச ஆராய்ச்சி கட்டுரையை நான் பாக்குறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சதுக்கு ரொம்ப நன்றி. எனக்கு அழைப்பு கொடுத்ததுக்கு வந்து இந்த நிகழ்வை நடத்தினா எல்லாத்துக்கும் ரொம்ப நன்றி. ஸ்பெஷலா சங்கீதா அவங்களுக்கும் ரொம்ப நன்றி. எப்பயுமே சொல்லுவேன், எப்பயுமே வந்துட்டு நீங்க லெஸ்பியன்ஸ், கே, இந்த மாதிரி எல்ஜிபிடிக்கு மக்கள் எல்லாருமே என்ன பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னா, அவங்க இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நீங்க இருக்க கம்மிங் அவுட் ஸ்டோரி எடுத்துக்கீங்க, இல்ல இதுக்கு முன்னாடி இருக்கிற நிறைய கதைகள் எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்க அப்படின்னா அதுல எல்லாருமே சொல்றது வந்து என்னன்னா, அவங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கம்மிங் அவுட் ஆனது யார்கிட்டன்னு தெரியுமா? அவங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கம்மிங் அவுட் ஆனது ஒரு இங்கிலீஷ் டீச்சர்கிட்ட தான் இருக்கும். ஏன் அப்படின்னா இங்கிலீஷ் டீச்சர் தான் ரொம்ப கம்ஃபர்டபுளான ஒரு சூழலை உருவாக்கி கொடுப்பாங்க எல்ஜிபிடிக்கு மக்களுக்கு. அது எல்லா இடத்துலயுமே, ஈவன் தமிழ் மீடியம் பிடிச்ச எனக்கும் அப்படித்தான், அது வெளிநாடுகள்லயும் அப்படிதான். ஏன்னா இங்கிலீஷ் டீச்சர் எப்பயுமே அவங்க நிறைய லிட்ரேச்சரை படிச்சிருப்பாங்க, இது சம்பந்தமான புரிதல் இருக்கும். அதனால இங்க இருக்க ஜெண்டர் நான் கன்ஃபார்மிங் குழந்தைகளா இருக்கட்டும், லெஸ்பியன் குழந்தைகளா இருக்கட்டும், கே பைசெக்சுவல் குழந்தையா இருக்கட்டும், எல்லா குழந்தைகளையும் அரவணைக்கிற ஒரு கையா இங்கிலீஷ் டீச்சர் இருந்திருக்காங்க. ஸோ அப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு இங்கிலீஷ் சூழல்ல நான் பேசுறது வந்து எனக்கு ரொம்ப மகிழ்ச்சியா இருக்கு. ரொம்ப நன்றி. நான் முதல்ல வந்துடுறேன். நான் ரொம்ப ஹானஸ்டா பதில் சொல்றேன். என்னை தயவுசெய்து யாரும் கோச்சிக்கிறாதீங்க. ஏன்னா நான் எதுக்கு இதை ரொம்ப ஹானஸ்டா சொல்ல போறேன் அப்படின்னா, அப்பதான் வந்து நீங்க அடுத்தடுத்து இந்த மிக சிறுபான்மையா இருக்க கம்யூனிட்டியை பத்தி நீங்க சொல்றதுக்கு, வெளியில சொல்றதுக்கு, நீங்க படிக்கிறதுக்கு இன்னும் ஏதுவா இருக்கும் அப்படின்றதுக்காக நான் சொல்லுவேன். 3 பேப்பருமே நீங்க கொடுத்த, நீங்க அதுக்கான கிட்ட டைம் அப்படின்னு சொல்றதுக்கான நேரம் வந்து ரொம்ப அழகான நேரம் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஏன்னா இதுல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ண பிரியா மேமா இருக்கட்டும், செகண்ட் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ண வந்து நம்ம யுவாவா இருக்கட்டும், காவ்யாவா இருக்கட்டும், நீங்க எல்லாருமே டீட்டெயில்டா எடுத்துட்டு வந்து எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணீங்க. ஸோ அதுக்கு 3 பேருக்குமே என்னோட வாழ்த்துக்கள். ஆனா என்ன அப்படின்னா என்ன, ஏன்னா எல்ஜிபிடிக்யூ அப்படின்றது எல்ஜிபிடிக்யூக்குள்ள இவ்வளவு லேபிள்ஸ் இருக்கு. நீங்க சொன்னீங்களா இவ்வளவு லேபிள்ஸ் வந்து, இப்ப ஐம் கே பர்சன், எனக்கு இன்னொரு கே பர்சனா தெரியாது, அவர் எப்படி பிஹேவ் பண்ணுவார் எனக்கு தெரியாது. ஓகேவா? அப்ப என்னோட பிஹேவியரை, என்னோட செயல்பாடுகளை, என்னோட சுபாவத்தை வச்சு நான் ஹோல் கம்யூனிட்டியை நான் ரெப்ரசென்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. புரியுதுங்களா? அப்ப இங்க என்ன நான் உங்களுக்கு சொல்ல வரேன் அப்படின்னா, இந்த டாபிக் இருக்கு இல்லையா, டாபிக் வந்து கே லெஸ்பியன் ஸ்டடீஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, இப்ப கே லெஸ்பியன் ஸ்டடீஸ் அப்படின்றப்ப இன்னும் அழகா, இன்னும் நுட்பமா கே லெஸ்பியன் ஸ்டடீஸ்க்குள்ள இன்னும் லிட்ரேச்சர் சம்பந்தமா இன்னும் எடுத்துட்டு வந்திருக்கலாமோ அப்படின்றது எனக்கு தோணுச்சு. ஸோ குயர் ஸ்டடீஸ்ன்றது ஒரு அம்பர்லா டெர்ம். அது எல்லாரும் ஒரு சென்சரைஸ் பண்ணாம ஒரு ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா ஒரு ஆராய்ச்சி கட்டுரை சமர்ப்பித்தல், ஒரு பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷனா என்ன அப்படின்னா, நீங்க ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டிய சென்சரைஸ் பண்ணல. இங்க நம்ம ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டியை பத்தின ப்ராப்ளம் என்னமா இருக்கு அப்படின்றத வெளியில இருக்கிற மக்களுக்கு சொல்ல போறோம். அதுதான் ஒரு பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷன். ஸோ டெக்னிக்கல் பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷனுக்கும் இந்த மாதிரி லிட்ரேச்சர் பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷனுக்கு என்ன வித்தியாசம்னா, டெக்னிக்கலா இருக்கிறவங்க ஒரு சாஃப்ட்வேரை கண்டுபிடிப்பான், இல்ல ஒரு டெக்னாலஜி கண்டுபிடிப்பான், டெக்னாலஜி கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு ப்ரொபோசல் கொடுப்பான். அந்த ப்ரொபோசல் தான் பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷனா இருக்கும். ஸோ நான் இங்க பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷன் எப்படி இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு நான் சொல்ல வரேன்னா, ஒரு இண்டிவிஜுவலா ஒரு சின்ன டாபிக் எடுத்துக்கணும். எல்ஜிபிடிக்குள்ள கே லெஸ்பியன் ஸ்டடீஸ் அப்படின்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா, இந்த கே லெஸ்பியன் ஸ்டடீஸ்ல ரொம்ப ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அப்ஜெக்டிவ்ல கேனா யாரு, லெஸ்பியன்னா யாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நம்மளை சுத்தி இருக்கிற சூழல்ல ஒரு பிரச்சனையை கையில் எடுக்கணும். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இங்க இப்ப ரொம்ப லேட்டஸ்டா ஆனந்த் வெங்கடேசனோட தீர்ப்பு வந்துச்சு. லெஸ்பியன் ப்ராப்ளத்தை பேஸ் பண்ணி ஒரு தீர்ப்பு வந்துச்சு. அந்த தீர்ப்பை எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிருக்கலாம். அந்த தீர்ப்போட சாராம்சம் என்ன, அந்த தீர்ப்புல என்னென்னலாம் சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. கே லெஸ்பியன், அது தமிழ்நாட்டை சார்ந்த ஒரு தீர்ப்பு, ரொம்ப ரொம்ப வரவேற்கக்கூடிய தீர்ப்பு. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி சின்ன சின்ன இண்டிவிஜுவலா ஒரு அப்ஜெக்டிவ் எடுத்துட்டு அந்த அப்ஜெக்டிவ்ல ரிசர்ச் பண்ணி அதுக்கு காவ்யாவோ, பிரியாவோ, யுவாவோ என்ன சொல்யூஷன் கொடுக்க போறீங்க அப்படி சொன்னீங்கன்னா அது இன்னும் நல்லா இருந்திருக்கும் அப்படின்றது என்னோட மனப்பான்மை. இதுல 3 பேர்த்துல நான் ஏன் வந்துட்டு யுவாவை வந்துட்டு நான் இடையில ஸ்டாப் பண்ணேன்னா, யுவா வந்து சொன்னது வந்து ரொம்ப நெட்ல இருந்து அப்படியே எடுத்து போகக்கூடாது, நம்ம ரிசர்ச் பண்ணணும். அங்க வந்து சைக்காலஜிக்கலி அவங்க டிஃபெக்ட் அந்த மாதிரிலாம் இருக்கிறப்ப ஒருவேளை இங்க ஒரு ஏசெக்சுவல் பர்சன் இருந்தாங்க அப்படின்னா அதை பார்த்து அவங்களுக்கு மனசு கஷ்டமா இருந்திருக்கும். அப்ப என்னோட செக்சுவாலிட்டி சைக்காலஜிக்கலி சரியில்லாததா, அப்ப நான் ஏசெக்சுவல் ஃபீல் பண்றது எனக்கு ப்ராப்ளமா அப்படின்றத யோசிக்க வச்சிருக்கேன். அப்ப ஒரு சூழல் இருக்கு, இது ஒரு தளம் அப்படின்னா இந்த தளம் வந்து அனைவருக்குமான தளமா இருக்கணும். அந்த தளத்துல ஐம் கே பர்சன், என்ன ஃபாலோ பண்ணி நிறைய எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சவங்க எல்லாம் இங்க வந்திருப்பாங்க. அப்ப இங்க நடக்கிறது அனைவருக்குமான இன்க்ளூசிவான ஒரு இடமா இருந்திருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஸோ இதுக்கு இன்னும் டேர்ம்ஸ் எல்லாம் இன்னும் நீங்க நிறைய கத்துக்கணும். இன்னும் எங்களை மாதிரி ஆட்கள் இருக்காங்க, நாங்க உங்களுக்கு என்னென்ன ஹெல்ப் பண்ணணுமோ அது எல்லாமே பண்றதுக்கு தயாரா இருக்கேன். ஸோ இதுல வந்துட்டு எனக்கு ரொம்ப ஒரு விர்ச்சுவல் ஹக் கொடுக்கணும் அப்படின்னா காவ்யாவுக்கு வந்து நான் வந்து கொடுக்கணும். ஸோ ரொம்ப ரொம்ப அழகா, எதிர்பார்க்கவே இல்லை, ரொம்ப அழகா நீங்க எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணீங்க, சூப்பரா இருந்துச்சு. என்னன்னா அது ரொம்ப ஸ்பீடா போயிடுச்சு. ஓகேவா? இப்ப ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டி பர்சன், எல்ஜிபிடி கம்யூனிட்டி பர்சன் இந்த செஷனை கேட்டாங்கன்னா அவங்க ரொம்ப மனசு திருப்தியா இருந்திருப்பாங்க. இந்த செஷனை பார்த்தது காவ்யாவோடது எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு. அவங்க நிறைய லிட்ரேச்சர் எல்லாம் சொன்னீங்களே, அதெல்லாம் இன்னும் மெதுவா நிறைய எடுத்துக்கலாம ஒரு 4 டாபிக் மட்டும் நம்ம வந்து பேசலாம். நிறைய டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் ட்ரை பண்ணலாம். நீங்க படிச்ச இலக்கியங்களை தமிழ்ல மொழிபெயர்க்கிறதுக்கு நம்ம வந்து முயற்சி எடுக்கலாம். அதுக்கப்புறம் காவியத்தை ஒண்ணு மட்டும் நான் சேஞ்ச் பண்ண சொல்லிடுறேன். 2 mother 2 father அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்றோம் இல்லையா, எல்லா இடத்துலயுமே இங்க இது ஒரு பைனரி வேர்ல்டா தான் இருக்கு. ஓகேவா? இது ஒரு பைனரி வேர்ல்டா இருக்கிறப்ப அந்த 2 mother அப்படின்னு சொல்றவங்க நம்ம பாக்குறதுக்கு ஒரு பெண்ணா இருந்திருக்கலாம், பாக்குறதுக்கு ஒரு பெண் மாதிரி தோற்றத்தை இருந்திருக்கலாம். ஆனா அவங்க பெண்ணை உணர்றாங்களா, ஒரு பெண்ணை உணர்றாங்களா அப்படின்றது ஒரு கேள்வி இருக்கு. ஓகேவா? அப்ப அவங்க 2 mothers 2 parents அப்படின்னு சொல்றதை விட ஒருவேளை அவங்க லெஸ்பியன் அடையாளப்படுத்திக்கிட்டாங்க அப்படின்னா லெஸ்பியன் பேரண்ட், கே பேரண்ட் அப்படின்றது சொல்லி இருந்திருக்கலாம். சோ எனக்கு இந்த 2 பேரண்ட் 2 மதர் 2 ஃபாதர் அப்படின்றது கொஞ்சம் நெருடலா இருந்த மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு. மற்றபடி இது ரொம்ப ஐ ஓப்பனரான ஒரு செஷன். ரெக்கார்ட் சாரி ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்துச்சு. இன்னும் வந்துட்டு நான் பொதுவா சொல்லணும் அப்படின்னா இந்த 3 பேத்துக்குமே சொல்றது, அது காவ்யா, பிரியா மேமா இருக்கட்டும், யுவாவா இருக்கட்டும், பேப்பர் பர்சன்டேஜ் பண்றது, அது ஒரு ஆராய்ச்சி கட்டுரை சமர்ப்பித்தல் வந்து ஒரு ஒரு குட்டியான ஒரு பிரச்சனை, ரொம்ப சின்ன பிரச்சனை. அதாவது ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் உங்ககிட்ட யாராவது கம்மிங் அவுட் ஆயிருப்பாங்க, உங்ககிட்ட நான் இப்படின்னு சொல்லி இருந்திருப்பாங்க. அப்படி உங்ககிட்ட ஒருத்தவங்க எல்ஜிபிடிக்கு பர்சன் வர்றாங்க அப்படின்னா அவங்களுக்கு நீங்க எவ்வளவு பெரிய நம்பிக்கை கொடுத்துருப்பீங்க. அப்போ உங்ககிட்ட வர்றாங்க, அப்போ உங்ககிட்ட என்ன குவாலிட்டி இருந்துச்சு, ஒரு பர்சன் என்கிட்ட கம்மிங் அவுட் ஆகுறதுக்கு என்கிட்ட என்ன குவாலிட்டி இருந்துச்சு, அந்த குவாலிட்டியை நான் மத்தவங்களுக்கு சொல்லணும் அப்படின்ட்டு அந்த குவாலிட்டியை பேப்பர் பிரசன்டேஷனா பண்ணலாம். புரியுதுங்களா? சோ இப்படி டீட்டெயில்டா ஒரு பாயிண்ட் எடுத்து பண்ணு. ஏன்னா நீங்க சொன்னதெல்லாம் சொல்றதுக்கு நிறைய ஆட்கள் இருக்காங்க. ஓகேவா? இப்ப அதே மாதிரி நான் இன்னொன்னு சொல்ல வர்றது லிட்ரேச்சர் சம்பந்தமா. இப்ப இங்கிலீஷ் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட், தமிழ் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் லிட்ரேச்சர் எடுத்துக்கிட்டாவே அவங்க வந்து இலக்கியத்துக்குள்ள என்ன இருக்கு அப்படின்றது பேசுவாங்க. இங்கிலீஷ்ல இருக்கிற மாதிரியான ஒரு இங்கிலீஷ்ல இருக்கிற மாதிரி காவியா வந்து நீட்ட பொருள் எப்போ அடிக்குது. இங்கிலீஷ்ல இருக்கிற மாதிரி அழகான வார்த்தைகள் எங்கேயுமே கிடையாது. நான் வந்து எனக்கு வாய்ப்பு கொடுத்த சங்கீதத்தை கூட சொல்லியிருக்கேன். நிறைய வார்த்தைகள் இங்க எஃபெமினேட் அப்படின்ற ஒரு வார்த்தை நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணல. எஃபெமினேட் அப்படின்றது வந்து நீங்க தமிழ்ல அப்படியே லிட்டரலா டிரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்ணீங்கன்னு வச்சுங்களேன், ஆண்மையற்றவன் வரும். ஓகேவா? ஆனா இங்கிலீஷ்ல அதோட டெஃபினேஷன் பார்த்தோம்னா பெண் தன்மை நிறைந்த ஆண் அப்படின்னு வரும். ஓகேங்களா? அந்த மாதிரி எல்ஜிபிடிக்கு மக்களுக்கு இங்கிலீஷ் மாதிரி ஒரு கம்ஃபர்டபுளான டீச்சரோ கம்ஃபர்டபுளான லாங்குவேஜோ இங்கிலீஷ் தான் இருக்கு, வேற எந்த லாங்குவேஜும் கிடையாது. ஸோ அப்படிப்பட்ட சூழல்ல அப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு கருவி உங்க கையில வச்சுட்டு இருக்கீங்க. இன்னும் நிறைய வேலைகள் இருக்கு, உங்களுக்கு நிறைய விஷயங்கள் நீங்க பண்ணணும். எனக்கு ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு இந்த நிகழ்வுல கலந்துக்கிட்டதுக்கு. 3 பேருக்குமே என்னோட மனமார்ந்த வாழ்த்துக்கள். இன்னும் நிறைய பண்ணுங்க. ஸோ ஐ ஹோப் என்னால என்ன பண்ண முடியுமோ உங்களுக்கு சப்போர்ட் பண்றேன். தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச்.
Thank you, Alagu Jegan sir. Rumba thanks for sharing your views. Yes, my opinions on both the papers presented, that is after Priya madam, Kavya and Yuva, Alagu sir gave a valid point. Like yes, you can narrow down taking one point because any paper presentation is narrowing down. But I would also at the same time appreciate the efforts taken by all the 3 paper presenters. You have kind of like gone back to the theoretical aspect of it, be it queer studies or gay and lesbian origins or asexuality. You've gone to the theoretical side of it. What Alagu sir recommends is like you can make it little practical, as he spoke about coming out, as he spoke about the space which literature offers, in particular English literature offers for people to really come out, LGBTQIA+ to really come out. That is laudable. And I found, yes, Kavya's very extensive. Priya ma'am has also kind of strengthened the theoretical base, which is also needed for any research. I appreciate all the 3 paper presenters for their efforts taken. And it's a very glad thing that a comrade of the community is able to be here and use this platform, the forum, to express him's opinion. I'm so happy to have Alagu Jegan sir here, so that it's like straight from the horse's mouth experience. And certainly sir, I think all learners and readers and teachers of literature, now queer theory is becoming, we have come a long way from queer. That's what I told Priya madam also. We have opened up into a common gender world where we can talk about anything and everything. And such small gatherings would really take us to the next level and accept and celebrate. As I told in the beginning, let us celebrate the difference. Let us no longer treat it as difference. It's like we are extension of our own selves. We are all human selves. மனிதர்கள் தான் நாம் எல்லோரும். ஸோ மனிதர்களின் மாறுபட்ட நிறங்கள் தான் இது எல்லாமே. And let us celebrate it. இதுல வந்து difference, uniqueness அப்படி பார்க்க வேண்டாம். We need not go into those aspects. We'll only celebrate that every human being is unique. As Alagu sir said, one orientation is definitely different from the other. That is why that is the speciality of literature. It offers platform for recording human experiences, however marginalized, however minimum, and however distinctive they are. Okay, so let us celebrate this, human self that nature has created us to be. இயற்கை நம்மளை எப்படி விதிச்சிருக்கோ அப்படி நம்ம இருக்கலாம். So I think with these few words, I thank the prestigious English department of Queen Mary's College for having me here on the forum. I'm an ardent learner, researcher of LGBTQ and queer and gender and women's studies. So it gladdens me that I'm here. I thank Dr. Preeti, my good friend in the department, Dr. Vinita, and all the entire department, QMC English Research Department, and all the participants, 67, 70 and odd participants here. And my special thanks to Alagu, Jegan, sir. And Dr. Preeti, anything else?
Yes, madam. We can get responses, questions. And
Yeah, any questions, any responses? Now,
Yes,
the floor is for
Preeti,
the-
I would like to make a few comments on the paper. Srilata, retired from Chelamal College. Okay.
Welcome, ma'am.
Yes, Priya, all three of you have
Yes,
given comprehensive theoretical accounts of the topic that you have chosen. Very there, but more than in a paper presentation, as Mr. Alagu Jagan pointed out, we expect some. I mean, I have already recorded in the comment box. You need to take up some literary work, and actually, from Mr. Alagu Jagan, I wanted a few more comments on what these people spoke. Mrs. Mathangi.
Yes,
Gopal.
yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes. When she spoke, she said queer has become a label for almost anything today. We have music, we have dresses, we have environment did a few years, but that becomes consumerist. See, it becomes a label. It becomes just a label. Maybe in America or in the West, maybe it is practiced. Not, I'm sure in India, it is. Way back in 85, I still remember giving place to a person sit next to me, little realizing that she was a transgender. I did not know, okay, but I felt that a woman sitting next to me would be more comfortable than a man, because it was all the way from Kadalur to Chennai. I had to travel. After that, when I analyzed, I was just thinking, had I known that that person was a transgender, I would not have invited. Right? I would not have invited that person to come and sit. Then again, one part of me said, yes, this person is transgender. At least I feel safe than having a male who would, it was a late night also. We'll have problems. It took me some time to understand who it was. Then I had to do a re-examination of my feelings much later. Of course, I had later opportunity to work and listen to many of many of the transgenders around, and with Mangai, with her theater, Kannadi and all that I had. So I was able to get to know more of this, and one of my a person whom was known to me changed gender. I also, even as late as 5 years back, I know a person who had, because he wanted to change his gender, right? He was refused his chance to do his research in a prestigious Anna University. The person, what's the supervisor refused to continue with him. So it's still, and he's into something else now. So all our studies, all the reading that we do, it has to be extended to the world outside, I feel. And I think there are books, works written by our own people, which can be, I feel, as Mr. Alagu Jagan said, translated or worked on to make it popular and people to realize that there is no, in India, we still haven't got over all our differences. We still have a lot of it. It is as, I mean, what was the situation in 85 is still, I think, continuing even today. It is not our responses. All our reading should make us better people, more accommodative of all the differences that we have come. So this is what I would. So even when we choose our books, we have to choose such that will highlight whatever has been written in India from our people. It's nice to talk about. Yes, I've read even Frank and Grace and Frankie's for Kavya Bharathi, who watches Netflix. Yes, I have been watching that. I've seen that also. I understood little more of that, not only from sex education, so many aspects of this thing. And I more than that, it gives gives me an opportunity. Is it entertainment alone, or are we getting something out of it? All these things are things we should ponder about after, whenever we do all feminist studies or all of these things should lead us to that. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to listen to all of you. Good, there are so many people, young people taking up. When I did long ago, when I took up Patrick White for MPhil studies, I went and told my supervisor, there is some broad stuff there, ma'am. I'm not very. No, she told me, she was a very good supervisor. She told me, no, you have to touch them at least with a pair of tongs. Much later, when I mentioned in an interview that I worked on Patrick White, the question came from the interviewer: did you know that Patrick White was gay? Luckily, I knew what gay meant, right? I did not know the word gay. I mean, the word gay was attached then. We didn't have those studies then. So that, and I told them, yes, had I known, I would not have attempted. I would not have made a study of his. But later I felt, see, the sensibilities that come through and made him worthy of a Nobel, right? That was what his sensibilities, maybe as a a homosexual or gay person, was that which gave quality to that work. So it is worth examining these things. Now, I didn't go searching for these works. It came, and it gave me an opportunity to know things better, right, and accept differences. So thank you all for having me here on this forum, also to listen to you. I still like listening to young people because I get more from there. Yes, thank you.
Mathangi ma'am, you are muted, I think. Can't hear.
Sorry. We have definitely come a long way. A humble difference I would mention here. From 1985 to 2021 is real journey, I would say, for all the LGBT, and also so many legislations in support of them, support of us. So I think we have definitely come a long way. Yes, thank
No,
you.
I'm not talking of the legislations. I'm
No,
talking
even
about the public.
socially,
Yeah,
yes, ma'am,
social.
even socially, there is an awareness. And now we have
Yeah,
this
it's definitely
platform itself.
better, but not as we expect.
Yeah, we have
No.
definitely come away
Plus,
from
no, it is
Americanization.
because it is natural. We have not even learned to accept caste differences. I mean, put away with caste differences. Where will we do away with all these?
Yes, yes.
Right.
No, but
That is where we are understanding the queer studies comes in, ma'am, where we are
yes, yes.
broadening the experience.
Broadening the experience,
Yes, the
broadening the
young
experience.
mind, especially, that is what
I'm
we.
happy that
Yeah,
people are, as ma'am rightly said, Srilata, ma'am, so many youngsters have come forward.
Yes,
And it's no
Yes.
longer a stigma or a taboo.
Yes.
That's
that
a
is why we
welcome.
have to travel from where it started to now. That is what
Yes.
we attempt, because these are all
Yes,
young minds
yes,
who
Mm.
needs to know the journey which they had. It is to register in the mind, and they have to know how it all started.
yes, yes,
How, what are the really, either is this binaries, what are the binaries are there, either it is like male female, social roles like masculinity femininity, whatever
Mm.
it is, the girls, the young mind has to know the hardship, the difficult journey which they had, and where we are today, this platform is kind of a very eye opener for them. This opportunity for them.
Awakening.
What is? Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Alagu sir, for really those wonderful words.
Yeah,
I think somebody else had a question. Mr.
Yeah,
Dinesh Kumar. Yes.
Mr. Dinesh wanted to pose a question. Mr. Dinesh, you are welcome. Dinesh Somasundaram. Are you in the meet, Dinesh? You wanted to ask a question. You're welcome to ask if you're here. Probably some technical snag and he's logged off. Okay. Yes. Dinesh, again,
Ma'am?
if you're here, you can. Yes. Dinesh? Are you Dinesh?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Shweta, student.
Shweta. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Any more
Ma'am,
questions,
I have some
suggestions?
comments on.
Yes.
Can I, ma'am?
Yeah, please. Sweta Saravanan.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Shweta, ma'am. I have some comments on Living Smile Vidya, ma'am. It was my first novel about the LGBTQ and all the things, ma'am. It was the eye-opener moment for me about the third gender. Before that, I had the fear about them, to facing them. Even if I saw them, I was really scared. I don't know what to do. I will hide somewhere. I pretend to sleep when I see them in the train. I don't know how I was feel. But after I read the Living Smile Vidya, I really respect. I don't. It's kind of respect, and I am trying to understand that pain. It's really hard. Yeah, everybody born in a family, but they are abandoned. If I had been abandoned, I don't know what to do. If I was a transgender, I would really feel very bad. If I can't imagine myself as a transgender, because that is how hard it is. Um, After that, I was really trying to understand them and respect them a lot after reading the Living Smile Vidya, ma'am. I think that was the power of literature. And next is the Great Gatsby. I've read Great Gatsby, but I never know that Nick's character was a gay. I was astonished when the PPT is popped up. Oh my God, he is that character. I know him, but I never understand that he was gay. After finishing, I analyzed the character, but I don't know. It was another. I have to read the novel once again, I think, ma'am. And in other countries like America, and in Greek mythologies, they have the idols like gods for gays, and Japanese had the culture of wakashu, means gay marriages and gay sexual things. But I think I don't have any traces about the gay and lesbian literature in our history, ma'am. Like Tamil, I know the things like transgender, but I cannot trace the gay and lesbian things in our literature, ma'am.
There's so much there.
There are so much,
I know.
Shweta.
In
Indian
the
literature
mythology.
has accommodated differences, has always celebrated
I
differences.
think I have to read more, ma'am.
Mahabharata.
In fact, Americanization and Europeanization of this cure is what ma'am said, it's more of commercialization. Whereas Indian literature has really celebrated the difference. It is only after colonization, when 377 was introduced, unnatural
Yes.
offenses. Only after that, this became a criminal offense. Okay, before that, I told you about the Mughal empire and all. Everything was celebrated. Napumsakaling, the third gender, was a part of the Sanskrit literature. Yes,
Yeah.
one of the ancient Vedic languages. So we have always celebrated and respected differences. In between, yes, we get influenced by so many things and things change. That's all. I think again we are coming back to where we left. And let us pick threads.
Yes.
Thank you, Shweta. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, anybody else? Dr. Preeti?
this has been a well-attended session, and we've never had this many participants, and I think it's also one of our lengthiest sessions. I'm very glad about the interaction. So I think we can just proceed to closing remarks and vote of thanks.
Closing remarks, do you expect from me or you would take over, ma'am?
Yes, from you, ma'am, and I'll ask and we can go to the vote of thanks.
Okay. Again, thank you so much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to talk about these things because I have been an ardent reader and listener and researcher in transnational queer studies, diasporic queer studies, and also gender and women studies. So more than being calling it as marginalized, labeling it and all that, I have literature has taught me to view as an extension of human self, human experience, and I strongly feel that this has to go on. We have to accommodate, make it more accommodative, and kind of sensitize our notions, our ideas, stripping ourselves off of prejudices and biases, be it caste or be it whatever. And I think this is a bigger experience beyond caste and gender and everything. So I am very happy to meet Alagu Jegan also. And thank you so much for arranging this wonderful tandem was perfectly in tandem, I should say. A real good experience for me to listen to all the professors here. Thank you. And yes, we can keep on talking about this human experience because there is no limit. Sky is the limit, but our gadgets and our minds and our family commitments do curtail us. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Preeti, Vinita, Srilata ma'am, Priya ma'am, and all the other professors and participants. Glad. And I would just conclude with one line. It's like, if I am cure, let me be curer. So let me sensitize myself to everything that is around, and let me celebrate, and let me, entangle myself to what is really human about the whole thing. Thank you, everyone.
And I think I need to inform our audience here that Sangeeta, who is at Department of English as a guest lecturer, has arranged for Mr. Alagu Jegan to be with us this evening. So thank you, Sangeeta.
Nice, very nice. Shall we, ma'am?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Anything else, ma'am?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. எனக்கு இந்த வாய்ப்பு கொடுத்த சங்கீதா அப்புறம் இந்த அமைப்பு எல்லாத்துக்கும் ரொம்ப நன்றி. நிறைய அதான் உங்ககிட்ட சொல்ல நினைச்சேன். பால்மனம் அந்த மேகசின் வந்து நீங்க படிச்சீங்க அப்படின்னா உங்களுக்கு நிறைய நாலேஜ் அதுல இருந்து கிடைக்கும் அப்படின்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். ஸோ ரொம்ப நன்றி. ஹெச்ஓடி மேமுக்கும் என்னோட தனிப்பட்ட முறையில நான் ரொம்ப நன்றி சொல்லிக்கிறேன். மாதங்கி மேம், நீங்க ரொம்ப அழகா இதை கொண்டு போனீங்க. ரொம்ப அதிகமான வாழ்த்துக்கள் உங்களுக்கு. ரொம்ப நன்றி.
Thank you. Shall we bid adieu? Shall we log out?
Yes. Is there a vote of thanks, Nancy?
Yeah, is there a vote of thanks by Gayatri?
Yes, ma'am. We had an interesting discussion. I thank the chairperson, guest speaker, and the paper presenters for their valuable contribution. I thank our principal, Dr. Uma Mageshwari ma'am, and our head of the department, Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan ma'am, for their constant support. I thank all the teachers and scholars for being a part of their learning platform. Thank you all. We will meet again after a fortnight on 17th December 2021 at 6 p.m. The topic for our next symposium is Historical Geography. Do stay with us on this journey of learning. Thank you.
Just a minute, Preeti ma'am. I pay my respects and salute to my Department of English, A.M. Jain College, headed by Professor Philip Chandrahasan, and my principal, Dr. Venkatramanan, and my college for giving me this chance to calling myself as a staff of A.M. Jain College. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Our regards to them as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Bye, all of you.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
As always, you made it lively with your questions.
Huh?
Yes, very high intellectual input. Thank you so much. Priya,
Yes.
proud of you. Kavya, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Cat,
for this opportunity.
yes, Yuvadharshini, very good, Yuvadharshini. Excellent presentations by all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
ma'am. Thank you.